Welcome back to Digital Disruptions Dialogues. I'm Karina Quinn, your host for today's episode, Navigating the Clouds and Exploring Cloud Services. Cloud computing has become a cornerstone of modern technology, empowering businesses to innovate, scale, and operate with unprecedented agility. But with great power comes great complexity. So in this episode, we'll break down the essentials of cloud services, explore the latest trends, and discuss the opportunities and challenges organizations face in their cloud journey. Joining me are Chris Beckford, President and CEO of eTRANSERVICES, Duane Joseph, Cloud Services Architect and Cloud Expert, and Vince Frimpong, Information Systems Security Officer and Cybersecurity Expert. Together, we'll share valuable insights to help you navigate the ever-evolving cloud landscape. So let's dive in. Since Duane, you are new to this podcast, why don't you go ahead and start off by giving us an introduction and your brief background into cloud computing and technology.
All right. Thank you, Karina, for that great introduction. To hear that I'm new is kind of strange considering I've been with eTRANSERVICES for almost 5 years now, working specifically exclusively in the cloud. My background goes back to about 1992, MS-DOS, working my way all the way up through the whole Microsoft stack, being an expertise in email systems and Active Directory, then SCCM, and then pretty much for the last 8 years dedicated strictly to Azure. Everything's Azure in my world right now.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. And Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself now in case we have any new listeners?
I'm Chris Beckford, President and CEO of eTRANSERVICES, and I'm here. I don't know much about technology. I just try to run a technology company.
Awesome. And lastly, Vince, who joined us in our last podcast. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself again in case we have any new listeners. And thanks for joining us again.
Well, thanks for having me again. Hi, everyone. My name is Vince Frimpong. I'm the ISO with eTRANSERVICES, and I enjoy working here. That's all I have.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. So let's go ahead and jump into the basics of this conversation. So I'll start us off by saying, or by asking, what is cloud computing?
Well, that is a big question. Well, coming from you, that's a small question with a big answer. But in short, it's connectivity to workloads on the internet to support applications that perform business functions.
Cloud computing depends on who you talk to. It has its various definitions based on the perspectives. I tend to align. I'm a purist, so I tend to align with Peter Mell's definition of cloud computing, which is on-demand access of computing resources, whether that is the typical thing that you would have on an infrastructure, the physical, the virtual, the storage, the networking, the application. And now AI is now a part of that equation. And just like the utility model, all of those features of cloud computing are now being priced per use. So that's my purest definition of cloud computing without looking at any perspective. It's it's the utility model of the present and the future combined with AI, and I think the next evolution is going to be tokenization and maybe even quantum.
I really like the way you brought up that there's a hypervisor software as a service. It's all virtualized. for us on the front end, whereas on the back end, Microsoft is really doing the heavy lifting of converting that hardware into a software component.
I'm Mark. I'm still looking up, trying to find. The two of you, I need you to explain a bit more to me, because where does my data go in the cloud? Because I'm thinking like a 90-year-old man who's just trying to understand what it is. Where does my data go? Does it go into the blue sky up here? Oh, it goes into a box.
But we have some control on that box. Some.
So what my question is, where does it specifically go? Where does my information go? Is there a server somewhere that hides it? Is there a cloud somewhere? Everybody calls it cloud. Could you explain it further to me?
It's in the ether. You don't have to look up to see the cloud, but start with your original question. Where does my data go? Well, it depends on your architecture, depends on your type of data. It depends on your security requirements for your data. There's a series of dependencies that will decide the type of cloud that may be right for your data. And to be more cost efficient, that is a very, very important thing to know. The type of data, the sensitivity of data, the security that your data requires. That is the first thing for you to understand before you decide where does my data go. Because once you figure out what you need and what the benefits are from where my data should go, then that's when I think we can make a better decision as far as where your data go. But eventually your data will end up being on a server, being centrally managed somewhere by some entity based on the security posture.
So,
And like you said, the business requirements, that's also key, because the difference between the government taking advantage of cloud or a commercial entity or a state or local government, those are also variables that are important. And right now there's a push. It has been for a while, since 2010, when Vivek Kundra, the first federal CIO, mandated the cloud first strategy. It was cloud first, not necessarily cloud only. We're actually, 20 something years later, the government is actually moving aggressively to the cloud. And sometimes it takes a while, but sometimes it also takes a little bit too long, because the realization of the value associated with cloud computing, that's already, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. That's when I think organizations start seeing true benefits of cloud computing. But there's also a little downside, but they're seeing the benefits.
You mentioned security. So for me, from a security standpoint, I always wonder how protected my data is once it's in quote unquote someone's server. How protected would it be? I throw that question to both of you.
In my opinion, the cloud just mimics the data center, and the kind of protections that you're going to surround, the layers you're going to build on premise, can be duplicated just as well within the cloud. So it's really up to you. How far you're going to take your security posture is really up to you.
Yeah. And it also is dependent on your architecture, because the analysis of your architecture is your cyber posture. And based on your cyber posture, as Duane says, that will decide what you select, the type of cloud you select, or the cloud services that you select.
Yeah. So simplifying this for me, so on my phone, I do have Apple Cloud Services. Everything goes in the cloud now. Everything is backed up into the cloud now. So my general qualm with cloud service would be just knowing that everything I have on my phone is somewhere else. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't really know where we're going with this specific path, but it's either you trust your provider or you don't. If you like the iPhone, you're going to have to live with the fact that if you want to back up your data, you're going to sync it up to the cloud.
And also, trust is important, like Duane says. But on the back end, this is where, as an individual, you may be getting a level of service that may be free. So where is that data stored?
Nothing's free, Chris. We are the product.
Yeah, there is a cost, and that
yeah.
and in fact, let's hit on that a little bit. Free. What exactly is free cloud? Well, there's no free cloud. You're giving something up, whether it's your information to support the marketing effort in order to get something out of it. But the importance of where the data is stored, the supply chain logistics, that becomes very critical based on whether it's a subscription model, depends on how much you're paying, your security requirements. Your data may be within the United States, but then again, your data may be outside the US, or your data may be inside the US, being accessed by personnel outside the US. But your security posture will decide, what type of access is available inside your organization, external to your organization, inside the U.S., outside the U.S. These are things that complicates this cloud environment.
That's what entirely complicates it for me. Yeah, trust it. But I do trust my cloud.
We trust your cloud too.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, what are the benefits? What are the benefits of cloud computing from I know from a management perspective, the centralization has its benefits, but I think from a corporate perspective, you can't just focus on that. You also have to look at what's the technology implications, what the cyber implications of cloud.
The implied certifications that come with just being in the cloud, the oversight, the integrated support that's already in the cloud. I mean, I've had instances where we've had to call Microsoft and they were right there within the environment on request just to take a look at what's going on and advise us. It doesn't get much more seamless than that.
But you also have your cloud providers that the only way to get a hold of them is via chat or an email. So having, within your organization, your level of service and what you're willing to pay for becomes also very important. So, if you have Microsoft right next to you, that's great. Having that touch label, that person to answer your queries. But in other cloud environments, it may be hard to get to that. It may be you have to get online, chat, look inside the new pushes for AI chat box, and not sure how people are receptive to that. I know I like to talk to people, so I don't want to spend 20, 30 minutes trying to get to the answer that, hey, try this. And it's like, well, within 2 minutes, you'd have told me that and I would have done it. Time is of the essence sometimes.
I guess I have one last point to add to that. You kind of think of once you're in the cloud, when everything is working, everything's good to go. But as I have learned, there's like a dedicated portal in Azure that tells you all of the components that are up for retirement. So it clearly defines all the resources that you have to address to move from one SKU to another SKU. And you just can't really do that. You can't see one single pane of glass of a whole environment when you're working on-prem. So that kind of integration just in itself to see where your deficiencies are within the network is worth its price in gold.
Now, let's talk about the various types of clouds that are out there. What are they, and what's the benefits?
Well, I definitely don't trust any public cloud service. Free is not free.
Well,
That's
you
what I'm
gotta
on.
you gotta find that balance depending on what the business requirement is versus the sensitivity of the data versus the service that you're obtaining. You just have to find that balance for whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, almost everybody has a Hotmail, a Gmail, and or some people have AOL.
Mhm.
Hey, 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 hey.
Mhm.
Come
But
on.
those are all quote free.
Yep.
But are they really?
Nope.
But the level of service that you get with it, that's what you get with it. But those are public cloud offerings that are available to anybody just by a simple registration and acknowledgement. You
Yeah.
know,
And even on that point, like you brought up earlier, Chris, the whole AI blow up explosion that's going on, although we can go to any LLM and kind of get our answers, but one way or another, we're feeding the algorithm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. ChatGPT, Copilot, you're definitely feeding them.
so we're using multi clouds. What's the value there from a technology perspective, Duane?
I would say I'm not a security person, but the integration between one cloud and another cloud, not to mention maybe to be used as a DR site. There's so many use cases that you can, not to mention the learning aspect of learning multiple clouds and how they actually, the different characteristics between each one can be beneficial as an IT professional. From a business standpoint. There's just so many scenarios that it can accommodate. But my opinion is really the integrations between one cloud to another cloud. You may find that database services are cheaper in AWS, where front end services are more streamlined and easier to configure in Azure. And theoretically, you could set up a VPN between one cloud to another cloud and enjoy the benefits of both clouds, enjoy that cost savings, and also the feature sets that come along with it.
Vince, what are the security concerns associated with that multi-cloud?
Oh yeah. The only thing that comes to mind is sharing data between two cloud systems. What if there's a data breach? What happens to it? What is their backup plan? Their contingency plan? All those are just going through my head. How is this going to be mitigated? What is going to be quarantined? What information is going to be quarantined? How do we prompt the users that your information has been breached? These are questions that keeps knocking on my door every time we talk about cloud, and
Yeah.
especially
If you
multi-cloud.
have with two separate clouds, you've got to learn two separate systems for security specifically, and that's a heavy load to put under your belt. Not to mention the protection of the data. It could take depending on the workload, the team could be extensive trying to put all those pieces together. Azure has so many different security uh, initiatives, programs, certifications. It's just so hard to keep up with it nowadays.
I mean, and Chris was just talking about Microsoft Defender. It's also another layer of it. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah,
There's many, many different planes on the Azure fabric just for security. That's a benefit and also a detractor. You have to deep dive into that. But, pick the right one for the use case. That's probably the most important takeaway.
yeah, and that's why businesses are adopting cloud. There's various values to businesses and also to the types of businesses that would benefit from a cloud environment. Over the weekend, I had some guys come out and give me an estimate on fixing a roof. First thing I asked them for was, "You got a website?" It's like, "Sure." And then I went to Yelp, and then see what others are saying.
Yeah.
So, that's right there, using the cloud to validate day-to-day commerce. And, and eventually we'll get to the point where everything is connected, where, I can now see a reflection of the organization through the cloud and combine that with what I actually know, because now that we're using the cloud or clouds as, you know, quote, facts or presenting facts, um, it's gets a little bit dangerous, because who and how do we get misinformation cleaned up um, out there in the cloud? So, those are the some of the disadvantages of the cloud. Who's responsible for removing misinformation or incorrect information or false information?
That's a pretty deep topic, Chris. But you did hit a button for me. I just want to kind of elaborate on. And through my travels in Azure and seeing a whole lot of IT professionals out there, uh, it kind of amazes me that a lot of people have this idea of Azure is this obviously a platform that you set up and then you start building out resources, and those resources turn into workloads and they kind of sit there forever and they do their thing, whatever that might be. But the mindset with so many IT professionals kind of has to change a little bit, because when it comes to cloud computing, it's really meant to be. We've all heard of infrastructure as code, infrastructure as a service, but we should be able, at a moment's notice, set up resources, workloads that get a job function done, and then we have the ability to collapse those, and then we get to enjoy those cost savings. So the real point that I'm getting to is the ability to be dynamic within your cloud environment is crucial into understanding the services that you create and build, and also enjoying that cost savings. Because I've seen so many different people where they set up these workloads and they just sit and linger forever. And before you know it, 3 years has gone by. And when you look at the time that this resource has been up and running, whether you're scaling it up or scaling it back or just removing it, period, there's a lot of potential there to save money and also find other endeavors to build upon in your business and all those workloads.
Right. I love the save money part. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, just in short, we should not think of workloads as build it and let it linger. We should build it, analyze it. Maybe on the weekends we want to scale it back to 2 CPUs. Or maybe when the holiday comes during Christmas and everyone's off for a week, we want to completely remove those workloads. And then, that Sunday before everyone comes back, we rebuild them at a moment's notice. The ability to build out workloads and retract those workloads uh, is a very complicated skill set, going into Azure DevOps and many, many other software products. But I've seen so many people, they're so eager to build stuff, but they're really not concerned with, well, how am I going to analyze this? How am I going to remove this? How am I going to scale it back if needed, if ever needed? But that mindset has got to change with IT professionals going forward within the cloud.
I look at the same issue from an executive position in a different way. So the time it takes to rebuild and to set up, um, I don't even want to be bothered with it. So the
Because you're the boss.
the where I see the evolution of the cloud. So I'm looking out into the future, and I'm looking at the evolution of the cloud, just based on what you just said, Duane. And I'm expecting that at some point in the future, whether it may be 5 years from now, AWS storage today is 2 cents per megabyte. Yahoo is 3 cents, and Microsoft maybe a penny. Regardless of what the value is, they're all cloud providers, and I want to basically set my AI up that basically says, on the weekend, I want my storage over on Yahoo. Monday through Friday, I want it over at Microsoft. And should any one of the providers drop their cost below 10%, I want my data switched over there. So that's where, from a business perspective, I see the evolution of cloud and the cost savings associated with it. Technology and maturity wise, we're not there yet. But, from an executive position, that's where I hope to get to, and, I'm a simple person. So I for example, I use my Alexa device. And I used to go in there and I used to tell it, hey, turn the light on at, turn the light off at midnight. Turn the light on at 8 in the morning. Now I don't even have to do that because the AI is now a lot smarter, where I can basically, without giving it manual instructions, just using my voice and just say, hey, Alexa, turn on my my radio at 8:30. Slowly wake me up. And at 9, turn the light on. Turn the fan on in the shower at 9:05, and by the way, tell Moen to turn the shower on and preheat it to 98.6 degrees, so I can just walk in and then 10-minute shower. So at 9:15, turn the shower on, leave the fan running, and then turn the fan off after 2 hours. That's our home of the future, and that's the cloud of clouds, and that's devices talking to cloud environments. That's interfaces and interface specifications working with each other in an ideal world, when I'm getting all the benefits of the cloud, but at the same time, I'm also managing cost. Um, and we're getting to that point where the need for high tech, well, AI is going to pick up some of that. And
Chris, I like that concept. I mean, we're gonna fail over workloads from one cloud to another cloud, just because of the cost savings right there. That's kind of ingenious. I haven't thought about that before. But with the whole AI thing, yeah, I could very well see that the agents are coming on strong and they're gonna take over the world.
I'm enjoying all of this, but again, I go back to security, my privacy. Giving Alexa the chance to just tell my showers to do all of these nice, fancy stuff for me. Privacy, my security. Oh,
well,
what happens?
You're going to have to, and this is where risk management comes in. How much risk do you want to take? And maybe Alexa isn't the right choice. Maybe there's something else that provides you additional security. But, whatever the solution is, we can't stop what's coming. And it's literally the utility services. It's the evolution of the cloud combined with AI. So, we have to look at, from a business perspective, how do we develop strategies to adopt these technologies? As I'm looking at business, 3 years from now, how many software developers do I expect to see?
Mm.
Not a lot.
Yeah, we're all software developers at this point. As long as you have a
Exactly.
need and the desire, it's beyond belief how good it's gotten so quick. My development skills have exponentially increased. Not that I'll tell you what LLM I use, but it's getting so increasingly easier for anyone to enter that market. I don't know if we're talking about AI here or cloud stuff, but don't get me started.
But those are the things that I think we need to seriously consider as the market shift is, how do we benefit from these, and what are the stages to adoption? Obviously, security is one of the critical elements, but you know, as Vince was talking about, security. How do I concern myself with security? Well, it depends. There's the centralized security, and then there is what I have in my shower, the edge, because I don't want to be in my showers, setting it for 98.6 degrees, and then next thing you know, somebody turned it to 140 degrees while I'm in there, So how do I protect that edge? Because that is edge. That is the edge. So, I'm interested in what you guys think about the edge being in your home.
Local LLMs, if we're talking AI specific. I mean, that's the ultimate security. The size and the ability. I mean, you can run a LLM on a Raspberry Pi.
No, you keep saying LLM. Could you break down LLM for the listeners, please, and for myself actually?
Large language model.
What does it do?
It's a level of AI that is local to you and what impacts you.
Okay, makes sense to me.
It's not what's local to Duane may not be local to me. We may have benefit from the same framework, but it's leveraging my information, my environment, my architecture.
And completely uncensored if we're talking local LLMs.
So from a security standpoint, I can actually structure it, this local LLM, structure it or instruct it to protect certain details for me. Is that correct?
I guess it depends on how mature it is, and uh, everything. There's an evolution that's going on. So it's it's going to control everything associated with that's local to you within the scope and parameters that you define.
So
This
for
might be
example, yeah,
this
go
might
ahead.
be a little bit off topic, but it's amazing to think that when photography first came out, how many centuries ago? At the time,
Centuries.
people were saying that it was witchcraft, that it would never be accepted as a real art form. And over the course of decades and even centuries, now we couldn't live without photography. In fact, we don't even second guess it. It's a part of our First Amendment right. It's seen as a daily part of our lives now. And LLMs and AI is very, very new within this generation, within these modern times. But beyond us and beyond our lifetime, it will be just another tool in our pocket. And no one will think twice or three times about using it and how we use it. I feel we kind of got off course here with the cloud computing stuff, but it's definitely here to stay. It's another revolution within mankind.
I don't think we got off. I think we went a little bit deeper, because where we're, you know, that discussion is what benefit the average person who is taking advantage of um, uh, local cloud computing and AI, at home. And in some cases, we have more power at home than we do in the workplace as far as the benefit from the from cloud and AI. And it's so sometimes going to work is like going backwards.
Very true. I like that analogy.
And and that's I hate saying that, but this generation that's in middle school and high school right now, when they enter the workplace, if the workplace isn't keeping up, they'll be disappointed because of the power they have at home, and they're expecting that in the workplace. So that's another part of the cloud, and a part of the digital transformation that is happening. Is you have a workforce, a future workforce at home, and then when they reach when it's time for them to go to work, and they're like, "You trying to tell me you can't do this and I can't do this?" It's almost, if I'm a Trekkie, so if you remember Mr. Scott, when he was he came back into the past on the Enterprise, and he was like, "Computer," and they're like, "Oh, you have to type it in," and he was like, "How quaint." That's the way some of our kids are going to be when they go into the workplace.
I can relate to that, Chris, just by when I go from a DoD tenant subscription versus a commercial Azure subscription, because it's just vastly different. And even on my local workstation, my commercial side, I've got so many tools at my disposal just to help me on my day-to-days.
Yeah, same thing we've been talking about last week. The difference between what the government has, and sometimes government agencies, they have so many tools, so many different tools, but they're kind of paying twice for it. But that's also an impact of the digital transformation, is which tools, and for the big buyers like the government, it's, do you for example, do you have the right to audit? I want access to my data. Well, where is your data? And what is it being used for? Because your data is being used to create other data. That's an additional part of the digital transformation, the control of the data, not just security, control of it, because data is the new currency.
Yeah,
That's true, Chris. But for me, my major qualm with cloud, you guys, this has to do with the complication with compliance of jurisdictions. Like you said, someone could be in Europe and not have access to my data. How are we regulating this? I know there are the HIPAA laws and the GDPR, PR system, but I'm trying to have a clear understanding of how we can regulate something like this from a risk management perspective.
I think it depends on the governance you put over the data. That's what's going to decide. Europeans, even, a lot of the GDPR benefits are actually in the US, in particular states. It's being adopted slowly, but it's already here. And I think we're probably getting a little bit more compliant than what we thought we were. But I don't think anybody can, no provider can unequivocally say, well, I've removed or deleted all your data. So how about, the data sets that's been, randomized, or that's still mine. It's still being used. It's just transformed.
I have a question for Chris. My question is, from an exec standpoint, does it make sense? Would it be advisable, would it make sense financially with a company that has under 50 employees have multiple cloud service providers?
The answer is, it depends. It depends, because regardless of the employee count, cloud services, you had no choice. I think we were fortunate where eTRANSERVICES was founded in the cloud. So we never had a footprint. We never had local servers, filing cabinets, and those type of things. So those type of things, may be a drag in the transformation from for larger companies. But any company that's starting right now, they're in the cloud. I don't think they have a choice. And if they choose anything other than cloud services, they're not going to survive.
We're cutting close to our time. So are there any other key takeaways that you guys want to throw out there, or any insights that you want to throw out there about cloud computing, AI?
Now, I do want to end with one final comment, though. I think the future of cloud and AI is extremely bright. I'd equate to level 1 to 10, 10 being we've fully matured. I think we're level 1.
Yeah, agreed. I believe AI is going to make people a whole lot smarter or a whole lot dumber at the same time. As the IT professional, our jobs are going to transform into more of gatekeepers. We
Yep.
still need to have awareness on the end result, our workloads, how stuff fits together. But ultimately, there's going to be eyes on all of our workloads, all of our applications 24/7, even spreading across the internet to find those bugs or the deficiencies or security vulnerabilities. It's going to be at a moment's notice. Wars will be fought between bots from one country versus another country. Us as humans, we're going to kind of just be taking a little sidestep and watching, overseeing, advising, approving, disapproving. It's going to be very interesting how the IT professional progresses. You know, that the whole thing from caveman to modern day man, I think the evolution is going to grow exponentially. It's scary, but it's also exciting at the same time. I hope I live long enough to get to enjoy some of those benefits.
Yeah, we're definitely at level 1. We're at the beginning. And it may seem like we've advanced, since, my first computer was an Atari 800 XL. That was 1986. And here we are with AI, and we're level 1. So everything that happened in the past 40 years, that's happening, that you can take that entire 40 years and put it in 1 year now. That's how powerful the machines are. When I listen to Jensen Huang of NVIDIA talk about, his chips and, where they were last year and where they're going to be with the new chips. And he owns the fabric of the coming empire. And that empire is AI. And when you sit on a moat that is so big where you have zero competitors, not even close.
Yeah.
We're at level 1.
And where's AI run?
Exactly. On that ecosystem, on that chip.
The big boys anyways, they're definitely
Exactly.
in the cloud.
The hyperscalers. And to be honest, if we have to take a look back at of the Y2K, the .com bubble, and where Microsoft was around at that point, Google, Amazon, it's a new era, new sets of companies that are coming in, and they're taking advantage of what's already been laid out, and they're moving faster. So if you have to own the ecosystem.
I find it amazing. I mean, we are living through historic times, but so many people really just don't understand the levity of this.
Yeah.
And I mean, 100 years from now, it will be like, wow, you lived during that time, the infancy of AI and cloud computing, because even cloud computing is pretty darn new. It really is. I was around during the Exchange hydration cloud dev sessions. I can't even remember what year that was, but it was revolutionary that you could run an Exchange system right there in the cloud, servicing real email for real people.
So I look forward to us moving forward and taking advantage of cloud computing, AI, the maturity of AI, and also trying to deliver those services to our clients, especially in government, because with the changes that are happening in government right now, everything we just talked about, that is going to be a very critical part of the solution. It's AI and cloud, the rapid modernization that needs to happen for efficiencies and cost savings. So I look forward to this opportunity.
We didn't even talk about robotics, but we'll save that for next meeting.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us today.
Thank you, Karina.
So to our listeners, I hope today's discussion has given you valuable insights into the power of cloud services and inspired you to explore how they can help you or your organization achieve greater success. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us for updates and more thought-provoking conversations. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and we'll see you back here on Digital Disruptions Dialogues. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you.
That is a wrap.